The Tyrant is a classic in the world of anime antagonists, filled with power-hungry maniacs that are dead set on control and dominance. Often in a position of power, they believe their way is the only way. If you oppose their way of thought, you must be prepared for a fight, as they're always ready for one. These tyrants are immensely prideful, and many of them have a massive god complex. Some examples of tyrants I found in anime are Kaido and Doflamingo from One Piece, Father from Fullmetal Alchemist, and lastly Frieza from Dragon Ball. Tyrant villains are usually ridiculously powerful. Plus, they are usually surrounded by an army of loyal minions. Tyrants force the protagonist to break their limits. Take Frieza for example. He pushed Goku so hard that he transformed into the legendary Super Saiyan, which at the time was thought to be nothing more than a myth. Frieza also rules over many legions of loyal minions with his overwhelming power, which ends up making Frieza believe he's unbeatable. Tyrants always underestimate their opponents, and because of that, they are usually defeated by determination or the power of friendship. The redeemed villain is a trope that showcases character growth and moral complexity. These antagonists undergo a mental transformation and transition from being a bad guy into being a good guy. Some examples of redeemed villains I know of are Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, Greed from Fullmetal Alchemist, Gaara from Naruto, but the villain I believe to go through the best redemption arc is Meruem from Hunter x Hunter. Initially a ruthless Chimera Ant King bent on world domination, Meruem's interactions with Komegi sparked a change within him. He wanted to defeat the champion of every board game to prove his superiority over the humans. But everything went wrong for Meruem when he met a short blind Gunki master. Basically, Meruem just kept getting defeated by Komegi in every single game they played. He began to develop real human emotions as he protected Komegi when she got attacked. He finally understood the true nature of his power, as he realized that power should only be used to defend the weak. He vows to destroy the system and the concept of inequality from the world. With this power, he probably could have done it if he hadn't gotten nuked, that was. Although his redemption arc doesn't make him fully innocent of his past crimes, it shows you to appreciate the value of personal transformation, even in the face of irredeemable actions. The Throwaway is a type of anime villain who only appears for a short arc or just a few episodes before being defeated and never seen again. Sometimes throwaway villains have enough backstory to make them seem interesting, but not enough to make you care. Throwaways even appear in fillers where they'll get defeated by an ability you'll never see again. Some examples of throwaway villains include the various Hollows in Bleach, Neighbors from World Trigger, and the random dumb filler villains from Naruto. These villains usually have a gimmick or unique power, but they're ultimately forgettable and easily defeated. As a matter of fact, you couldn't even be bothered to remember if they had names or not. A major example of an anime with tons of throwaway villains is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In Stardust Crusaders, apart from Dio, I swear, they all just got defeated in an episode or two, never to return again. But unlike in other anime, JoJo's does throwaway villains right. Each antagonist, despite brief appearances, boasts unique stand abilities, memorable designs, and quirky personalities that leave lasting impressions. Some of these characters even make a lasting impact on the story. But hey, not every villain can be a world-ending threat, right?
The tragic villain, which is a very common trope, are antagonists whose reason for being a villain was due to some form of trauma or sad backstory. These characters often attempt to bring out sympathy from the audience, making it hard to tell if they're a true villain or a decent dude with issues. Think of Obito Uchiha from Naruto Shippuden. In the past, he was a good kid with great friends and mentors, but unfortunate situations and misunderstandings caused him to feel betrayed and led him down a dark path. Eventually, he became one of the most powerful and feared villains in the series, but he was driven by a twisted sense of justice and a desire for power. The tragic villain trope is compelling because it raises questions about the nature of good and evil. Are people inherently good or evil, or are they shaped by their experiences? Zero from Fairy Tail is another great example of this trope. He was orphaned at a young age when dragons killed his family and was cursed by the god of life and death. This curse granted him immortality, but also caused him to uncontrollably kill everything he cared about, which forced him to live secluded, and he was eventually feared by all as a villain, whether he liked it or not. The tragic backstory often reveals itself gradually, adding layers to the villain's character as the story progresses. But overall, the tragic villain trope adds complexity to anime storytelling, making us question the villains and their motives. The manipulator villain trope includes antagonists who excel at controlling others through deception, psychological tactics, and strategic planning. These villains are often several steps ahead of the heroes, orchestrating complex schemes from the shadows. Aizen from Bleach perfectly embodies this trope. As a master of illusion and deception, Aizen manipulates both allies and enemies masterfully. His ability to plan decades in advance and adapt to unforeseen circumstances is crazy. Manipulator villains often possess exceptional charisma and persuasion skills, which help them easily sway others to their cause or even create doubt among their allies. Manipulators are gods at creating intricate plans which can end up exploiting weaknesses and insecurities, but most impressively, they can quickly adjust their plans and account for different contingencies when necessary, not even considering the fact they may have crazy abilities. Using Aizen as an example again, he literally manipulated the entire Soul Society, grew stronger just by sitting in a damn chair for years, and I remember the time when he literally stopped Ichigo's theme song with a single finger and proceeded to one-shot him, and that was after Ichigo had his whole MC training arc, which is insane. Manipulator villains are incredibly engaging and add layers of complexity to the plot, keeping viewers on their toes and constantly guessing. The Yapper villain is an antagonist who just can't seem to stop talking. These villains love, and I mean love, monologuing, often at the most bummy moments, derailing the action to spout lengthy speeches about things like their motivations, backstories, or even evil plans when the MC is at their whim. Nagato from Naruto Shippuden is one of the first people I think of. When Naruto found him inside the tree, and despite his dying condition, Nagato still launched into a sad backstory monologue, and I swear it felt like it lasted multiple episodes. Other notable Yapper villains include Aizen, Frieza, and Light, all of which are prone to long-winded explanations, monologues, and boasting. The Yapper villain trope serves several purposes in storytelling. It provides an opportunity for character development by offering insight into the villain's motivations and backstory. It can also be used as a tool for plot exposition, explaining complex plot points or revealing hidden information. In some cases, it can even build tension by creating suspense or allowing heroes time to regroup or charge an attack. Although I admit that this does provide insight into a character, which some may enjoy learning, it can also bring the plot momentum to a screeching halt, and is sometimes just boring to listen to. These long speeches in a fight wouldn't even make sense, but I guess there's no stopping the monologues, other than skipping forward in the episode for a few years.
The destructive villain is motivated by a deep-seated desire to obliterate existing order, destroying everything in their path, often because of personal trauma or profound disillusion with society. Some examples of destructive villains are Nagato from Naruto Shippuden, Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan, but the destructive archetype is best shown through Shigaraki from My Hero Academia. Shigaraki's main goal being to destroy hero society and rebuild a new society from scratch, which is often a common theme among destructive villains. His ability basically allows him to disintegrate anything he touches. He even uses decay ability to destroy 1/3 of a city. He's the perfect definition of a destructive villain, with his goal and power being about destruction. Shigaraki sees hero society as ignoring those that it can't protect, allowing problems to accumulate over time, and thus he must destroy everything. The busted villain trope involves antagonists who seem utterly invincible. These characters make their defeat seem impossible as they toy with their enemies and do whatever they want. Some examples of busted villains are Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen, Anti-Spiral from Gurren Lagann, Madara Uchiha from Naruto, and Yuwa from Bleach. First, let's go over Sukuna, as he embodies this trope pretty well. Hailed as a king of curses, Sukuna's raw power alone allows him to overwhelm every skilled Jujutsu sorcerer. During the Shibuya arc, he finished Jogo without him realizing he was dead. Immediately right after that, we see Sukuna fight Maharaga, and he had control throughout the entire fight. Heck, he even looked like he was having fun. I mean, he's known as the pinnacle of sorcery, the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer of all time. Similarly, Yuwa from Bleach embodies this trope even better. His power to alter the future and grant himself any ability he desires is just way too broken. He has so many abilities that some power scaler sites have banned Yuwa in fight debates. Haven't really caught up with Bleach, so I have no clue how Ichigo is beating that guy. The sadistic villain is an antagonist who gains pleasure from inflicting pain and suffering on others. These guys don't just cross the line, they pole vault over it and set it on fire for fun. Examples of sadist villains are Rikako from Psycho-Pass, Doflamingo from One Piece, and let's not forget the poster child for anime sadists, Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Dio revels from tormenting others, whether it's physiologically manipulating his own adopted brother or turning a mother into a vampire and forcing her to eat her own baby. His cruelty knows no bounds, as he delights in the anguish he causes. In part 3, Dio is shown as a complete maniac. Instead of just topping time and killing everyone with his stand, he wanted to have a little bit of fun before defeating them, so he could inflict as much pain as possible. But Dio's sadistic nature eventually led to his demise, as he severely underestimated Jotaro.
Alright, it's time to talk about the rival. You know, that character who's not quite the villain, but definitely not your buddy either. These guys are like that one friend who always has to one-up you, except they're trying to one-up the main character and maybe just destroy them in the process. The rival is that reoccurring antagonist who just can't seem to leave our hero alone, challenging them to fights and usually trying to prove something. And in some cases, they aren't just some bad guy, instead they often have abilities eerily similar to our MC. It's like looking in a mirror, except if that mirror was constantly trying to outdo you in everything. When I think of rival, the first thing that comes to mind is Gary from the Pokemon series, or Vegeta from Dragon Ball. Gary in particular was directly stated as Ash's rival, and was always one step ahead of Ash, with a smug grin and even a whole damn cheerleading squad to glaze him. What I like the most is that the rival doesn't just stay static, they grow and evolve alongside our hero, almost as if they're on parallel journeys, like two sides of a coin. They constantly push both themselves and the MC to new heights, well, until the MC gets a crazy power-up leaving them in the dust for a bit. But they always manage to bounce back. Sometimes in a twist, the rival can even become an ally. Love them or hate them, rivals are here to stay. But regardless, rivals usually make things interesting, so why wouldn't you want them around? Alien villains are threats that come from beyond our world, from who knows where, to wreak havoc on humanity. These are the villains of cosmic or incomprehensible origin, whose very existence defies human understanding, which makes them all the more terrifying. Think of the angels from Neon Genesis Evangelion, towering creatures that seem to operate on a completely different plane of existence. Their motives and methods are so alien that the human characters struggle to even comprehend them, let alone defeat them. Or how about Boros from One Punch Man, an intergalactic pirate that came to Earth seeking the ultimate challenge, his power and ambition dwarfing anything the planet had ever seen at the time. Like, it literally took 4 S-tier class heroes to fight Melzagard, who was Boros' 3rd strongest lackey, and Melzagard would have likely taken out a couple S-classes if he just wasn't an idiot. Regardless, the alien trope taps into our deep-seated fears of the unknown. These are threats that don't play by the same rules as us, that come from beyond the stars. They're the stuff of nightmares, powerful, unpredictable, and utterly indifferent to the fate of humanity. And let's not forget the sheer scale of these villains. When an alien threat emerges, it's not just a city or a country at stake, it's usually the entire planet or even the entire universe. Personally, I love alien villains. When you see one descend from space, the stakes are cosmic, the battles are epic, and a sense of dread lingers in the background. Lawful villains in anime often present a fascinating contradiction. They're evil, yet adhere to a strict code or system. These characters bring order to their villainy, making them both terrifying and oddly respectable. Examples of lawful villains include Akainu from One Piece, Yukiyara from Bleach, and Esdeath from Akame ga Kill. Esdeath, the Empire's strongest general, embodies the lawful villain archetype pretty well. From a young age, she was forced to follow the philosophy taught from her father, that only the strong survive, and the belief was further strengthened when she became the only survivor in her clan. She applies this philosophy consistently throughout her life, which is also why she's on the side of the corrupt Empire as a general. The Empire gives Esdeath the autonomy to act judgment against the Empire's enemies. In her military career, she commits numerous atrocities in the Empire's name. Her main motivation as a villain, I think, is to live in a world where the strong thrive and the weak perish, as that is her way of life, her personal law, as one might say.
The necessary evil is a trope that blurs the lines between good and evil. These villains believe their actions, though morally unacceptable, are essential for a greater purpose. They often take on the role of villain willingly, sacrificing their own moral integrity to achieve a nobler end. Lelouch from Code Geass is a perfect example of this. He's a complex character who uses his Geass powers to lead a rebellion against the mighty Britannian Empire just so he can create a better future for his sister Nunnally. But in order to accomplish this feat of defeating them, he must sacrifice himself, assuming the role of a villain. In a way, Itachi Uchiha is very similar to Lelouch. Sasuke believes his brother was evil for most of his adolescence, but it was actually the opposite. Itachi had no choice. He slaughtered his entire village to prevent a civil war, which had the potential to kill a lot of people, but the only person that he couldn't kill was his own brother Sasuke. Although they're seen as villains in their worlds, they both ultimately sacrifice themselves, not just for the world, but for the people they care about the most. The weirdo villain is a trope that's all about being, well, weird. These villains are just plain bizarre, often with motivations and behaviors that defy explanation, like that one elf dude from SAO Season 2 who kidnapped Asuna, or Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter. This guy is a master of weirdness. Hisoka's motivations are all over the place, and pretty much unknown for most of the story, and his actions are super questionable. He's a villain who's more interested in having fun. Not to mention, Hisoka's just a downright pedo. He was walking behind Gon and Killua, and yeah, we'll just end it out there.
The pure evil villain are the bad guys who are just bad for the sake of being bad. No tragic backstory, no redeeming qualities, just pure, unadulterated evil. They're the ones who make you shiver just by walking into the room. They're the embodiment of malevolence, often driven by a desire to cause chaos, destruction, or suffering. These villains don't need a reason to be evil, they just are. They're like the final boss in a video game, the ultimate obstacle the hero must overcome at all costs. Some examples of pure evil villains include Naraku from Inuyasha and Johann Liebert from Monster. Naraku is responsible for nearly all major atrocities, tragedies, and negative events that occur in the Inuyasha series, and Johann is a sociopath that wants to erase himself from existence, which includes erasing every person he's made contact with. These characters are the epitome of darkness, leaving a trail of devastation without a hint of empathy. They show no signs of redemption or a desire to change their ways, remaining committed to their evil goals to the very end. But hey, sometimes you just need a villain who's evil for the sake of being evil. They remind us of the classic good vs evil battles and give an MC a worthy adversary or challenge, assuming they even stop these lunatics. Thank you so much for watching the video. Feel free to like and subscribe and check out our other videos on screen right now.